closing time at the Bookmark usually reminded me of that old Dickens quote. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. A little joke to myself. One I'd share too many times with the customers, usually while trying to stop them from misusing it. But cliches, well, they have their comforts. It was the best of times because for one whole night, I wouldn't have to deal with inane questions from people who just wanted to browse and buy cheaper online. And the worst, because after the last door chime faded, the only thing waiting for me was an empty apartment upstairs. My father had built this store, raised me in it. If he'd left me a bait and tackle shop instead, I'd probably be an expert in overpriced fishing lures. Books were fine. I liked them well enough, but this place? It was just a job. Hey, we're closed.
Sorry to come so late. I lost track of time. I could come back tomorrow.
It's fine. How can I help you?
I was wondering, could you help me remember the name of a book I used to read as a kid? It was about a family of bears. They lived in a tree. They wore overalls.
Yeah, that's the...
Whoa! Actually, could you just write it down?
All right. Here. Berenstein Bears.
Berenstain.
Yeah, if you're interested, we've got a bunch in the kids section.
Actually, I don't think this is the correct title.
I'm pretty sure it is, but hey, if you're downloading it later, just search under series name. It'll be all right.
No, you misspelled it. You wrote S-T-E-I-N. It's S-T-A-I-N.
Berenstain? I don't think so. Come on, I'll show you.
Tell me, were you able to see the word in your head when I asked?
All right. Whoa, the Berenstein Bears. That's odd. I never noticed they changed it.
That's because they didn't, Thomas.
Have we met before?
I used to come here all the time when I was a kid. You were a few years ahead of me in high school. You always had that girl, Jennifer, with you?
Jennifer.
Your dad always let me read comics here, even when I couldn't buy them. He was a good man.
Wait, let's get back to this. What do you mean they didn't change the name?
You and everyone else I've talked to remember it the same way, with the E-I-N.
How many people have you talked to?
Enough. Listen, Thomas, is there any way you'd let me into the basement?
What for?
If I told you, you'd think I was crazy.
I'll tell you what, let me go in the back, make some coffee. Why don't you give me the short version?
I think most of the people on this planet died, and we just shifted into an alternate timeline.
10 minutes later, in the small kitchen at the back of the bookstore.
Thanks for not locking the door when I went out to get my stuff.
Hey, I don't think anything's crazy. I've read my share of science fiction. Asimov, Heinlein, Simmons. The key word there might be fiction, but I get it. It's easier to explain away weird things in life with a convenient theory.
But this isn't just a theory. You yourself wrote Berenstain. Your hand wrote that.
Yeah, but...
If I walked in here and said, America is supposed to still be under English rule, you'd think I was insane. And fair enough. But this was muscle memory. A fact you knew. You work in a bookstore. And you wrote it down.
Well, I think the real reason I didn't lock the door is that I'm not a jerk. And honestly, I don't mind the company. As for the name, maybe I never really looked that closely. Could have been distracted, kids running around, some old lady talking my ear off, or maybe they just changed it recently and no one made a big deal out of it.
I've done a lot of research and I have it all in my case here. But why don't you check for yourself? Why don't you Google Berenstein name change?
All right. When did the Berenstein Bears become the Berenstein Bears? Huh. Well, at least you're not alone. There are entire blogs about this. People swearing it was Berenstain. More than a few YouTube videos. The Berenstein Bears, proof we all died in shifted realities.
Keep going.
All right. Well, I got to the second page. Third page. That is weird. No official record of a name change.
Because officially it never changed.
Oh, come on. Maybe it's just bad SEO.
Try eBay.
Okay. Images of books. Every single one clearly says Berenstain.
What does the product description say?
Berenstein. Berenstein. All the way down the page, Berenstein. Wait, here's one seller using Berenstain. Huh, but the others. There's like 100 listings where people wrote Berenstein, even though the book that they're selling clearly says otherwise.
Exactly.
I'll admit, it's interesting, but there's probably a logical explanation.
Name one.
All right, hear me out. These were kids' books. We weren't exactly spelling out long last names at 3 years old. Maybe we just saw what we expected to see. Our brains filled in the gaps.
No, that explains some people getting it wrong years later, but everyone?
Okay, fair. You know what really throws me off, though? The pronunciation.
Exactly. No one ever said Berenstain. That's a sound kids would notice. They'd make jokes. Most people clearly remember hearing it as Steen or Stein.
I gotta admit, you're right. Even now, Berenstain sounds foreign.
Have you ever heard of the Mandela Effect?
Somewhere in the back of my mind, that sounds familiar. It sounds like a conspiracy theory waiting to happen, though.
It's the reason some people, a lot of people, Thomas, swear they remember Nelson Mandela dying in the 1980s. Not recently, not in a hospital, not with a big funeral, televised worldwide, but in prison, in the 1980s.
Well, that's just ridiculous.
To you, but to them, it's as real as your childhood memories of Berenstein. What I'm telling you, Thomas, is that we all died. And this, everything that we experience, this is just the version where we kept going.
5 minutes later, down the stairs to the basement of the bookstore. Now be careful down here. I've been meaning to clean this place out, but, never got around to it. Let me ask, if the whole world slipped into a new timeline, why do some people remember the name as Berenstain?
I think there are some people alive in this timeline who never existed in the old one. Maybe in the other timeline they died young. Maybe their parents never met. But here, something small changed. A different subway delay, a different decision. Butterfly effect stuff. So to them, this world, it was always Berenstain.
Whew. So, when do you think we actually shifted?
Who knows? Maybe nuclear war broke out. Maybe the Hadron Collider did something. we weren't meant to understand. Maybe the Mayans were right, and the world really did end in 2012.
Did they have a constellation that looked like a bear in a straw hat?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We could never know when we died. We'd never be able to observe it. But if infinite timelines exist, then we're definitely in one of them. Or maybe we're in many of them all at once.
Yeah, well, infinity is a pretty big number. It just seems...
It seems what?
Nothing. Lost my train of thought.
Come on, just say it.
Well, it just seems like this whole theory could be a cop-out.
How so?
All right. So let's say you have two choices. Steal from a bank or don't steal from a bank.
Ah, right. So in one timeline, you do the right thing, and another, you don't.
Right. So if you do rob the bank and get caught and locked up, what stops you from saying, hey, this isn't my fault. I'm just stuck in the timeline where I happen to be a criminal. The real me is the good guy in another timeline.
Maybe. Or maybe we're all just stuck with the choices we make.
What are you really afraid of, John?
Nothing. So what's your bet? Berenstain or Berenstain?
Well, if we find one of the originals, I think it's gonna say Berenstein, like I remember.
And if it doesn't?
Then we'll have a whole other question to answer.
Right. Like who has the power to erase all traces of the other name? And why?
Well, the easy answer would be that they, whoever they are, just want to see if they could get away with it. That much control would almost make me hope it's alternate timelines.
Wow. I guess we should be careful what we wish for.
The Berenstein Bears. I guess I was wrong.
No, Thomas. I think you remembered it perfectly.
John, what are you doing?
Thomas, think of a number between 10 and 20.
I didn't want to think of a number, but the number 12 popped into my head. To John, I said it. Why did you bring a grenade and a gun into my bookstore? Put those damn things down. No, John, what are you doing? That's not a live grenade, is it?
Oh, it's real. I assure you, we already died in one of these timelines. Let's see which one this is.
It's not loaded, is it?
There's one bullet. It's randomly in there, but it's only gonna fire in whatever number timeline you chose.
John, stop.
Don't worry, I'll stop pointing it at you.
John, get that gun away from your head.
Thomas, in another timeline, I'm already gone. But in this one, I just keep going. All right, I'll stop firing for a moment. Only if you tell me one thing.
What's that?
What happened to that girl, Jennifer?
Jennifer?
Yeah, you guys always seem like such a good couple.
Well, we were. And we went to prom together. And, well, she drank and I didn't. And when I went to go to the bathroom, when I came back, I saw her kissing another guy. She blamed it on the drinking, and I just couldn't forgive her, so we broke up. And, well, we lost touch, so I don't know what happened to Jennifer.
You guys were married.
What?
I remember you guys getting married. And I didn't see you for a long time. And then I drove up to this bookstore tonight, and I saw the two of you walking outside with your two children. And then I pulled this trigger when the gun was right against my head. And now we're in this timeline.
John, that's insane. Stop pulling the trigger.
I'm up to number 10. Why are you getting so nervous, Thomas?
Stop it, John. Why are you doing this?
I'm trying to get back to the timeline where my own children and wife are still alive.
What are you talking about?
Because my wife thought that she could have a couple of drinks and drive. And I'm trying to undo that.
John, this is insane.
Maybe. But I have no choice. That was number 11. You seem to be sweating, Thomas.
John, don't. Hours later, after the police had come and gone, Jennifer.
Don't dream.